Hey, how are you? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Drew, aka Booty Sweat, and we are going to have another Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate Custom Variations Guide for competitive play. And today we're going to be taking a look at Noob Saibot. So without further ado, let's get right on in to our boy here, Noob. In terms of custom variations, Noob Saibot is really about as simple as they come. So we're going to be using the Shadow Portals, which is this move. This is one of Noob's best moves, and we're using it in every variation today. So it shouldn't be too hard to explain our variations. The other thing that we're using in this particular variation is the Shadow Slide. The Shadow Slide is important because, one, it does tons of damage, as you see. So you can use it as a combo ender and get lots of damage. So that's a solid 34.8%, almost 35% for one bar. That's Baraka levels of damage. Pretty good. You can amplify it as well, again, using up both of your bars to get you an additional like 5%. It's right at about 40%. Not bad, usually not really worth it in my opinion unless you're really trying to close out a round or something, but it's there, it's an option. If you're struggling with that combo because the timing is kind of tricky because there's a micro dash involved, then you can actually end, instead of with the second round of that string, instead after the amplified Shadow Portal you can go with this little combo, or not that, but just this, and then you can cancel that into whichever special move you want. It makes it a little bit easier to do. And still nets you a solid 33%. Now another good thing about this move is it keeps you safe. So it's actually -6 on block if you amplify it, and it pushes them far enough away, or excuse me, I think it's -8 actually. And if you amplify it, it pushes them away a fair enough distance that it's pretty much impossible to punish. So you're 100% safe using this. So it's a great tool to keep Noob safe. And if they don't block the amplify, you get a pretty good amount of damage. It really is a damaging special move. So in addition to that, you have this kind of upward anti-air version, and this has really fast startup. I don't have frame data on. Hold on a second. Does it bug anyone else that it defaults to no frame data? It does me. Anyway, so it has a really fast startup at 8 frames, which is really solid for an anti-air. This is almost like, in my opinion, almost as good as Baraka's Spine Burst. It doesn't have quite as much of a hitbox. So like from here, Spine Burst would hit, but it's just as fast and it's just as good in most situations as an anti-air. So definitely utilize that. That's not an equipable ability. We'll have that no matter what, but so Shadow Slide is good for that. It's good for ending combos. It's good for keeping you safe on block, etc., etc. And then of course we have those teleports that are good for the launcher that I've just done, and all of this. So that gives you the ability to launch. Again, that's kind of tricky timing there, but the third ability that we have on here is the Spirit Ball. Now the Spirit Ball is cool because it allows you to get really good damage off of this combo. So that's a nice 33% just about, but that also restands, and you see we have 5 frames of advantage, of hit advantage once that's out. And then we can go into like his forward 2-2 and get some nice pressure with that. We can of course end it with that. That gets a nice little chunk of damage. So using these two moves in conjunction with each other would look something like this. Now, if they fail to block any of that, then instead of looking at 40% for 2 bars, you're looking at something like 54% for 2 bars. So that's pretty good. And if they do block the second round of attacks, then they'll be pushed back and you'll be safe anyway. And Shadow Slide does a pretty good amount of chip as well. So really, it's win-win for you in that kind of situation. And so Spirit Ball can be really good for that. It's kind of like a restand ability. You know, if you get a punish into that combo, then you're able to get a restand. You can go into a throw. You could go into his forward 4-4, which is a low. and has pretty good range, so you can go into that. So if they don't block low, they'll get hit by that. All kinds of good stuff. So this variation is really tricky and really safe and does a bazillion damage. So I think this kind of combination of moves is what really makes Noob Saibot a really good character in this game. So we're going to be running a lot of similar stuff for our other variations with just a little bit of disparity. So yeah, let's move on to variation 2. Okay, for our second variation that we're going with Noob, just before we get into it, again, I'd like to remind you to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content. If you're finding it helpful, that would really, really help me out, and I won't bother you too much with that. So let's go on to our second variation, and now this time, instead of the Shadow Slide, we have the Shadow Strike. Now the cool thing about this is you are actually sacrificing some damage with this, but you can get the same kind of combos. You can use it in the same way as a combo ender for the most part, but the cool thing about this move is it actually keeps you safe for no bar. So you had to spin bar to be safe with the Shadow Slide. With this move you don't. It's -6 on block for no bar. So you know, you can end combos with it and keep yourself safe as a result. And that's really good. Now another thing that I forgot to mention with Shadow Slide that also applies to Shadow Strike is that Noob Saibot actually has a pretty good mix-up in his 1-1-2, which is an overhead. That's an overhead, but sometimes you can do that. Or if they're used to you throwing out the Shadow Strike or the Shadow Slide, then you can throw in a 1-1-2 every once in a while for an overhead. So that's just kind of a little aside as well. Now in addition to this, we have the Sickle Snag, which is a really, really good combo ender. Again, that'll get you lots and lots of damage for relatively little meter. As you can see, that was 36% for 1 bar. With to get comparable damage with Shadow Slide, you had to amplify it and use an extra bar. So this is actually more damaging as a combo ender than Shadow Slide is. And so I just think it's good for that. We don't have the Spirit Ball, we don't have Shadow Slide, but we kept this one. We kept this Amplify so that we can get those cool combos, and then we have this to keep us safe in those situations and to mix up our opponent. So again, this is a pretty rush down kind of Noob Saibot archetype. I like Noob Saibot that way. I think he's really good and he does just obscene amounts of damage as well. So in addition, you can also amplify Sickle Snag to get you more damage. You can spend 2 bars and you'll get that additional damage. I think you can come out to like 42 or 43% for 2 bars if you do one of the more complicated combos. So that's good as well. Alright, for our third variation, again, we have the Shadow Portals because it's just so good. Why not have it? And then we also have the Shadow Slide back because, again, it's just so good. Why not have it? But the third thing that we introduced this time is we now have the Air Teleport. So you can do Noob's Teleport while you're in the air. Now this can throw people off. You know, you can jump at them and do it and get your combos or whatever. You can be way back here if they throw a projectile. If they try to anti-air you, say you jump in and they try to anti-air, then you'll hit them. And you're getting a pretty solid, nice little 28% off of 1 bar for that, just for being tricky. So again, you have your combos that you had before. But now you've added an additional ability to combo off of the Air Teleport. Getting a nice 25 to 28% off of being tricky. So if they're throwing projectiles, if they're trying to anti-air you, if they're trying to counter zone you, you can, you know, throw this out. And then here, you know, in the corner, you can get all kinds of cool stuff. So really, really neat variation just to have that. I like the Air Teleport a lot. Again, you can kind of mix and match all 3 of these however you want, because the core, kind of the shell, is the Air Teleport, or not the Air Teleport, but the Shadow Portals. And then you can kind of mix it up between Shadow Slide, Shadow Strike, the Sickle Snag, the Spirit Ball. The Spirit Ball has pretty specific utility, which we already went over earlier, but really, I mean, Noob is not a very complicated character. If you want to do more of a zoning variation with Noob, he's also very good at that, but he already has a competitive variation that's good for that. You don't really have to make one for that. And, you know, this is mostly about custom variations that maybe you couldn't use in tournaments before. That's what these videos are covering. So if you want to use his zoning variation, by all means. I think it's Pitch Black. I can't remember. But I prefer more of his rushdown combo heavy variations. And also this reptile skin is so sick. So that's going to be it for Noob Saibot. Very, very straightforward character. Like I said, not a whole lot to it. And yeah, so I hope you have a good one and make sure you stay blessed.